All right, how you getting on? Do you know what I keep singing in my head? I've watched so much. Now, I will swear, fucking Moana, right? And I love Moana. So don't get me wrong here. I love Moana. Although I do think there's too much makeup on the baby Moana. I do think that they age up the baby a bit too much, right? Not to get all Jordan Peterson on it, right? But I don't like the makeup on the baby. It looks like a Bratz doll, and I don't like it, right? When she's rescuing the turtle. But I keep hearing singing that bit where the ocean shows up, and the ocean kind of reveals a load of like shells for Moana to pick up, and there's some Polynesian. I don't know where it's from. I don't know exactly where it's from, right? And it goes, I'm not funny, no funny. And that might sound like racist, me trying to do that song from When Moana Meets the Ocean. And I hope it's in my head, and I keep singing it, and it makes me laugh. There's nothing wrong, I'm not having to go, oh, matangi, matangi. Why am I doing it again? Anyway, yes. But we were watching a good bit of Moana. I'm just back from the holibops, right? Although, hey, between me, you, and this lamp that keeps flickering and will give any epileptic person a fit, between me and you, look at me. This is my holiday. This is my holiday. This is me doing. Look, I don't get. This is me doing exactly what I want all the time, right? For however long I have it. Darren Brown says we must act like the Stoics, that nothing is permanent and everything is borrowed. You lose your phone. Hey, thank you. Thank you to the universe for letting me borrow that for a while. I mean, I know I gave you £1,000 across 2 years, but thanks for letting me borrow it as well. Thanks for even letting me borrow the cash. But when I gave it away to get the phone, and I wish I could have adopted that Stoic principle when my son actually dropped the tablet that he was using to watch Moana in the airport. A lot of waiting around, right? We limit the screen time, but because he's not 2 yet. But he dropped it, and I wasn't that disappointed. I've dropped and smashed enough phones and lost enough wallets and passports and phones to know that these are transient objects. They don't last very long. And they're borrowed. But it was as disappointed as I've been this year, which is saying a lot for my life. I was it kind of felt like the emotion was being like filed away somewhere to flare up another day. I wasn't really that annoyed. I don't really get annoyed with stuff like that. I don't really get annoyed if I lose things or if someone breaks something valuable of mine. But he smashed it. To quote, what's the name of the pundit who got sacked? What's your man? Did you smash it? Did you smash it? What's the name of it? Andy Gray? Not Andy Gray. The other from Martin Tyler. Oi, Redknapp, you smash it. Oh, but you hanging off the back of him, mate. Jesus. Nothing worse. The only thing worse than locker room banter is someone trying and failing and inexperienced at locker room banter. It's like Brick. But saying, like Martin Tyler, he's like, hey, you want to go to the fucking pants party, pardon my pants? It's just so it doesn't sound right coming from. Anyway, I had a wonderful time at the holibops, and I've been singing a lot of Moana because whenever we were waiting for a tube, or I was in London, and whenever we're waiting for a tube or a bus or a plane, whip out the old. Well, actually, we used it quite sparingly. Who am I kidding? Terry's not here. I was trying to whip it out as much as I could. The tablet, and luckily Terry, I don't know, values the internal makeup of our son's brain. I mean, whatever. Use your fucking screen if you want. I was reared on Skeleton Warriors, right? Park me in front of Skeleton Warriors with a Big Al and a bowl of Cookie Crisp and 2 litres of Coke, right? And I'm there being like, no, I don't know what's that. That's about 45 minutes now he's been looking at that. This beautiful, stunning story of Moana and Maui trying to return the heart of Te Fiti. What a fucking flick. Anyway, but it was on my holibops. Had a wonderful time. Had a wonderful time. Had this revelation though, right? First thing we did, I went to my favourite shop, fast fashion. Look, if it's fast fashion. I know Uniqlo are one of those trying to do something about it, right? Well, they're all trying to do something about it. I mean, it's not great, you know? It's a given. I mean, I am going to donate the rest of my clothes to a charity shop. These are some fucking banging threads, right? So I was just updating a few essentials, right? Needed some new trousers. Actually, here's an interesting one. Going over to London, you know, you have to put, this is our first flight in 2 years. Me and Terry went to San Sebastian in February 2020, narrowly missing the full lockdown by like 3 weeks. And and I realized when we were putting everything in the tray, they had all the lists of stuff you were supposed to put in the tray, and stuff you were supposed to put in like the plastic bags. And one of the things was a belt. And I saw a belt. I was like, fucking hell. I haven't wore any pant that has required a belt in 2 years. It's been 2 years since I've needed a belt or worn a belt. And I thought that was funny. Just post pandemic. Oh yeah, remember belts? They're back in pog form. So I thought that was funny. That I haven't worn a belt, my stretchy pants, you know. And I was like, I wasn't, you know, luckily I wasn't wearing boots. You're wearing boots or whatever, you got to take off the shoe. You know what I mean? Terry was rocking boots, she had to take off the shoe. I have a serious issue with the fucking shoe thing. I actually think I don't like getting my feet out in public or bare feet, right? I'm quite turned off when you walk into someone's gaff, some South County Dublin lad, and there's like a portrait of the whole family, and they're all wearing white shirts and denim jeans and like no socks. These fucking photographers and their foot fetish. These fucking Quintons with their chins hitting the snap button on the camera, looking at your feet, right? No, thank you, sir. I'm not interested in that. So I don't like getting my feet out. Nothing really wrong with my feet, you know. Foot's a foot, you know. But I don't like getting. So if they were like, "Look, can you take your shoes and socks off?" I'd be like, "Do you know what? No." And then they'd say, "Right, well then we're gonna have to bring you in to one of these private rooms, and you know, not rough you up, but we'll have to like feel you up a little bit." I'm like, fair enough. I think I would rather take. I'm always bringing up the gay shit. I was gonna say I'd rather take 2 fingers up the arse to investigate me. Not that they need to. Why would they need to if they're looking at my shoe? I'm just saying that I don't like taking my socks off. All right? So that's not to say that I want and no, whatever. But anyway, it was a wonderful trip. But in my Uniqlo shop, I'll tell you something I realized. I was getting all this gear. I was getting like an overshirt, right? I like overshirts, right? And I have a pair of white Geezahs, right? And I saw a pair of, there was like a kind of a flexible, elasticated waist looking chino. Look, kind of was made out of light cotton, right? Not quite linen, a bit heavier than that, right? And I thought that'd be a nice little summer look, right? But I'm not, you know, I'm not out here fucking playing jazz, right? I'm not painting like a new shape or a new color. I'm not, you know, doing some impressionist shit. I'm not doing any spin on it. I must have seen a guy wear all these clothes, right? And I'm thinking to myself, I want to be this guy. I was kind of talking about it last week, about, or was that on the Patreon, about being stalked by ads where you kind of like the look of someone. This is back in the old cookies days when you didn't know they were taking your cookies from you, you know? And you were like, I kind of want this lad's cookies, to be perfectly honest. And you click on the image, and then all of a sudden, this lad with stunning hair and a pair of jeans you're never going to buy is following you all around the internet. This little ASOS model, right? You look quite big, maybe 6'2". He's not little at all. So, am I making any sense here? Hang on. Yeah. I was talking about how, you know, you kind of just see people and you like the look of them and you kind of fancy them, you know. Maybe you don't want to go all the way to bed with them, but you kind of fancy them. Maybe like a 5%, right? But I was thinking to myself, like I'm dressing like someone I saw would dress like this. And then I was out in Broadway Market, which is kind of trendy part of East London, on the Saturday, and I put on all that gear. I put on all that gear that I thought people would be kind of wearing that kind of clobber. I put on the clothes, the trendy clothes that I thought the cool, trendy young professionals of Broadway Market would be wearing. And I dressed there intentionally. And there's no unintentional about it, you know? It's like when you go to a fucking bar, Why are you wearing a stripy shirt? Why are you wearing the bootcut jeans and the brogues, right? Why? Because you see someone else do it and you're like, I want everyone to think that I'm that. Is it one guy? Is it just a tribe mentality? I don't know. Or is it one guy you're like, this is the best guy. This is my equivalent to Jesus. Is this hipster who's kind of rocking a bit of a carpenter look, to be fair, with the overshirt, you know? But I kind of was like, I'm walking around being like, I kind of want people to think I'm a designer. I'm like, why? Like, I like designers and they dress very well. Certainly my designer friends, you know? And I don't have the strongest aesthetic eye. You know, I have stunning eyes. I mean, aesthetic, yeah, certainly I have stunning baby blues. I mean, depends if it's kind of I don't really have a kind of, I've certainly an inbound aesthetic eye, but an outbound, seeking out the world, I do not have a very strong aesthetic eye. But I just thought, like, how am I dressing? Why do I want people to mistake me for a graphic designer? Essentially, is what why am I saw the Geezahs? And I'm like, okay, I want people to get the same kind of I want feeling about me that I'm getting off this lad who's got an impeccable beard. Do his Geezahs have anything to do with his beard? That doesn't make any sense. Maybe I do have ADHD. I don't know about the H. Hey, steps, lose the H, right? No, I don't even think I have ADD. Do you know what? I refuse to think that if I have ADD, because I would put any kind of, I don't want to call it disability, because it is a disability for people who have it bad, but you know, I feel like I would, I'd abuse it, and you would end up taking my ADD card off me, you know? Like oh my God, imagine if I had ADD for any of the jobs I'd ever have, I would have ended up in court suing someone for sacking me because I was late, and I would have said it was because I had ADD. I swear I would. I would have so comfortably wanted something, you know, like an ADD, like I go for schizophrenia. Give me on. I would have loved someone just to say, do you know, you're like 2% schizophrenic, which still sounds awful, you know. So I'll be like, look, let you know, this is everything about me is that I'm schizophrenic. You know, schizophrenic's a shit example, but you know what I mean. ADD. If I was ever clinically diagnosed with depression, certainly had depression, certainly had depressive episodes, you know, of times, which if weren't really that bad. They were just kind of like, actually, they were pretty class. I was just playing Mass Effect. I was just sitting in bed playing Mass Effect. It was really good, you know. But like, you know, maybe I wasn't depressed. Maybe I just prefer staying in bed playing video games. And like, I don't know, like my mate Claire, she'd go out and read a book in the park on a sunny day on her own, you know. And if I was to compare apples to apples, me not opening the window, not getting up till 4, even though my stomach is sore from needing to piss, mine would look like I'm depressed. But that was exactly what I wanted to do, you know. So it's difficult to tell. But anyway, I'm just saying, if I was clinically ever diagnosed with something, I think I'd probably take the piss with it, you know. It would go beyond just, you know, like, I mean, like, not like, I'm saying like right now with me exactly how I am, you know, exactly how I've been. If all of a sudden it would be perfectly honest, right? If I found out that I was like a quarter Cherokee, like I would be getting cease and desist letters from Ancestry.com being like, you can't do that. You know, you can't be rocking that headdress, you know. If it was Egyptian, if I found out I was like a quarter Egyptian, oh my God. Fucking Tony Kamen, they'd be calling me Tutankhamun. Kind of a take on, it's a play on Tutankhamun, you know. Like I would want to own any differentiating factor. And I'm not saying that fucking having ADD or having depression is the same as finding out that you're a bit of a different race and wanting to incorporate more of that culture into your life. God, I shouldn't be into it. I'm just saying that I would. I actively look for more ways to make things about me, right? Me personally, right? And I'm going to bow out of this. Anyway, look, listen, this podcast is sponsored by my best friends, the Dubliner Irish Whiskey. And you know what? I'm having a nice little single, right? A single finger. That's when you pour, like some big fucking fingers, tell you that, boy. It's when you pour up to the one finger in a glass of their stunning smoked stout. I have to say, I love it. It's the traditional Dubliner flavour, but it's been aged in a kind of a smoked stout with Rascals Brewing Company. They also have an equivalent stout that you can get that's been jazzed up. I don't know, I'm not talking about fucking Rascals here. I'm talking about the Dubliner, my best friends, and look, it's tasty. It's kind of, you know, when you're having like, you know, when you go to a fancy cocktail bar and they reveal from a bell jar your glass of drink, and the guy's like, you know, and you look at the thing, it says £14, and that's pounds. Right? You don't need to do that, right? You don't need to be having that experience. You get that exact same experience with a little bit less flourish, with the greatest respect to the Dubliner, by getting their smoked stout whiskey. And I really enjoy it, and it's a tasty beverage. So I highly recommend you go over to the DLD.com. And over there's a whopper selection of whiskies you can get. There's some cheap and cheerful. There's some that have been aged for a bit longer. Some that are special reserve whiskies. Up to you what you want to get. But you can get it all over there at the DLD.com. And check them out on the Soch. And you know what? Not only do they make a tasty ass whiskey at all, right? I drank a tasty whiskey. Well, you did, Tweety. It's called the Dubliner. Not only do they make a tasty ass whiskey, they also foster some phenomenal homegrown talent here, right? They like to collaborate with people who are doing cool shit, like me. And this podcast. No, but also like Killian Sunderman and Michael Fry, who did their first ever live gig in their distillery with me and Killian and Shane doing our Young Hot Guys calendar, raising money for gay community news. And then as well as that, they're also propping us up, giving us a bit of cash to make the Bureau de Change Song Contest. Look, this is something I've wanted to do for years, and we're finally doing it. Myself and a bunch of other very, very funny fucking comedians who really want to win, by the way, and it's going to be very competitive, are all picking a country. We're all making up a song, and the 8 of us are going to be performing live on the 8th of May. That's Sunday in the Sugar Club, and it's going to be very exciting. All right, so who's performing? I'm performing. Michael Fry's performing. Killian Sunderman, Shane Daniel Byrne, Justine Stafford, Kevin McGahern, Fanula Jones and Peter McGann, all making up songs as a country, doing a bit of interviews, doing a bit of improv. Tickets are going to fly and they're on sale today through Eventbrite. And if you go on my social now, you'll probably see them, and they will look at me, fucking fly, and it's going to be a really fun gig. So do check that out. Hopefully we can make it an annual tradition that we do. But as for me, I'm not going to do the theme song now. I'm just going to talk to you now for a little bit. I'm just back from the holibops, guys. Right? I'm just back from the holibops. So do you know what fucking happened? Oh my God, I couldn't believe this, right? It's not even funny. We were out in Battersea Power Station, where they filmed Alien 3. I gave Terry an extra bit of Alien 3 trivia. Her nose started bleeding again, right? I'm coming out with all the fucking Alien 3 trivia. They filmed a bit of it there. They also filmed The Dark Knight. That's one of the warehouses that they blow up when Rachel Dawes is killed. They did it in Battersea Power Station. They filmed a lot of shit there, so I was giving Terry all the trivia on the way there. But they had all this, like this petting zoo, and they had we were there with Terry's brother, and his kid and his wife. And we were walking around. It was a lovely sunny day, the sunniest day they'd had in London for a while. All along the Thames, there's, we got some nice food, and it's all lovely and all real picturesque, all families everywhere. And there was these kids running up and down this kind of metal grating, right? You know the sort of grating that you kind of walk over and you can see like 20 feet down. You're like, ooh, imagine falling down there, right? So there was these kids doing races up and down it, because it was kind of in a kind of strip. There was kind of like, 20 meters of this thing, and it kind of looked a bit like, because it was long and thin, this grating. And my young fella, he loves to muck in, get involved with the big kids, just follow them. I mean, he has, oh my God, like ruined. He's ruined more games of giant Jenga than I can count. There was kids just piling up the Jenga, and he's trying to help, and I'm letting him, because I kind of want them to tell him off, and then he'll be like, oh, I misunderstood, like we do, rather than just picking them up and moving them away. So I see these kids, and they're like, no, what are you doing? He's like knocking over the Jenga, and I'm just watching, laughing, Oh, Mum, this kid is knocking over everything, and I'm just having a laugh. But then these kids were like running up and down this grating, and he's just trying to follow them. And he's laughing. He thinks he's in on the game, even though they are like 20 feet ahead of him. They don't even know he exists. But he's like, ha ha ha. He's following them, right? So they're running up and down this metal grating, and they're taking it in laps. So they run down to the left end, and they run down to the right end, right? So when they run down to the right end, right? And we're watching this happen. And then they run back to the left end. And about 2 seconds after they've left the left end, right, a manhole cover just fucking shoots open. Like on, like not in the air, but like on like this hydraulic, like it swings open. Like a hatch, right? Swings open, and you hear like this hydraulic pressed it open. Just swung open. And then the kids start running back down, and it's honestly about a metre and a half by metre and a half square hole that falls about 20 feet. Now, luckily, every parent that was there just heard that the piston of this thing, and there was luckily no kid on the other side of that. I was picturing kids just being fucking flung into the Thames, you know? And everyone was kind of saying afterwards, no, it didn't have enough kind of power to, this piston didn't have enough power. And I'm like, my young fella, it weighs 28 pounds. Easily would have fucking made it to MI5, right? He would have been flying over all the way to fucking Ray Fine's desk. My young fella just splatting on that. I don't want to think about it. Oh, not another baby, 007. Oh, why is another baby flung on my desk, 007? He looks like he got the splat. What would he say? Hang on. 007 makes a joke about my young fella being flung in the air. What would he say? Well, time flies when you haven't something. What would he say? He'd say something like, you know, they really do fly, or you really have to cherish them at this age because the time flies. Something, you know. Or no, he'd say something, you know, like, he's a bit young to have flown the coop or something. Really. Anyway, if you can think of a better Bond quip for my son being flung in the air with a hydraulic manhole opening, and he being carried at such a fucking ferocious speed that he ended up on the desk of Ray Fiennes in MI5. Barrissy's right beside MI5. Whatever. Anyway, everyone was saying that there's no way they'd fling a baby into the Thames. I'm like, well, we got to try. Anyway, all the parents luckily swooped in like a robin, as Chris O'Donnell from Batman Forever would say. Let me tell you the little sidebar right here. I know it's 2 sidebars, and you're trying to find out what happened to the hydraulic press, right, or whatever it's called. The origin of Robin's name, right, in Batman Forever, played by a hot older Chris O'Donnell, who's not a little fairy twink. He's actually a biker in this. All right, so he doesn't have little pointy shoes, right? His whole thing is he's chatting to Alfred, and he has an airbrushed bird. Doesn't look anything like a fucking robin, right? But he's an airbrushed red bird on his helmet of his bike. This ain't your granddaddy's robin, right? And Alfred's like, hey, what is the bird? And Chris O'Donnell saying as Robin, right? As what's his real name? Don't fucking tell me. As Dick Grayson, right? So he's saying to Alfred, he says, my brother's harness, they're acrobats, right? My brother's harness came loose, and I was the only one who could save him. I swung in, I swooped in like a robin to save him, and that's why everyone calls him Robin, because he swooped in and picked up his brother fallen with his little fucking talons. Not to get all Monty Python on you, but how's he going to grip it? You know? Anyway, all the parents swooped in like robins and picked their kids off the grating. But I tell you, I was waiting. I didn't take on the authority in the situation. Although I did say to kids who weren't my own kids, I said, kids, get off this. Hey, I don't even know you, but I'm giving you my grown-up voice. Get off the grating, right? And then, do you know what annoyed me? Some other parent came along with a louder voice. He's like, get off the grating, kids. And I'm like, this was actually my whole thing, talking to kids who weren't mine. You know, being authoritative to kids, which is easy, but you don't do it enough, you know? This fucking guy trying to steal my thunder. He was a bit older than me, so I kind of respected him, but I was annoyed because it was my whole thing, right? And then I stood on the grating, pushed the grating down, and I stood on it, and I had to put my full weight on it, you know? And then one of the, and I was trying to make it, I wasn't trying to make it about me. Maybe it wasn't, but a bit of a way, right? But I was trying to be like, all right, get security. I was like, I think I said to someone get security over here, right? which will remind me of that Larry David thing of like, I think it's like Cheryl's parents are over and someone knocks over like a spills wine, and Cheryl's mother, I don't remember whose it was, I think it's Cheryl's mother, is all like, okay, quick, someone get baking soda and tonic water or whatever. And then he goes, why don't you get it? People are like, okay, quick, get, someone spills red wine. All right, quick, get white wine. He's like, why don't you get it? It's one of the funniest, just quick offhand gags. Anyway, I said, quick, get a security guard, right? And the security guard came over, and I was like trying to make this about me and give out, heads are gonna fucking roll. I was saying to myself, my son could have ended up on Q. Could have been trying to fucking Q. Ben Wishaw could have been trying to put fucking wires in him to turn him into a little cyborg boy if he'd gone in the wrong window of MI5. Right? Right? So, whose fucking fault is this? And they were like, oh, I don't know. Can you close it? And like, there was no talking to them. It was a council issue, really. I mean, people walking around making sure the goats don't escape the petting farm have nothing to do with a fucking thing flinging open, waiting for Madonna to jump out of it in the Super Bowl. Do you know what I mean? It was that kind of vibe. So I stood on it for like 20 minutes. Too long. Even Terry was like, just leave. And I was like, no, I have to. I'm the only one who can support this weight of making sure that this blasted hatch stays closed. Anyway, I've talked about that enough. But if they fucking hurt my boy, try to hurt my son, Battersea, will you be battered and in the sea? It was a bit of an anticlimax because I was kind of wanted to see whose head was going to roll, right? Here's another one for you, right? We were going through Heathrow, and my son has a passport, and he has he's got a face and everything. But I didn't even think that people would want to see his passport and his face, So we were going through like the first check where like they scan you on the way into the airport to make sure you're the same. I don't know why I was going to say the word cunt there, but I will. I say make sure you're the same cunt getting on the flight, right? So no, do you know, it didn't feel right. I'm not hard. I'm just feeling so fucking amped up now because I wanted to swing digs at the delightful security. They were very nice at Battersea, who almost flung my son into bloody Moneypenny's phone. That wasn't great. I kind of ran out of Periphery Bond characters there. Should have left it on cue. Anyway, I was still amped up. So that's why I was trying to say the C word there, but it didn't work. So look, anyway, we were going through customs in Heathrow. So we were going through the first scan, right? And then is this any good? Well, it's what? Look, all I'm talking to you about is my trip, right? That's all you're getting. So we went through the first scan. Terry went in front, and then I went through with the young fella in the pram, and I just pushed him straight through. So I scanned and pushed him straight through. I kind of thought they'd probably want to see him, but I was like, I'll just, someone will tell me, or there'd be some signage, and pushed him through. I kind of knew something would have to happen, but I didn't really see any signage. I didn't know if I had to take him out. It would have been an inconvenience. If I took him out, it would have been fight to get him back in. And it was a bit exciting, to be perfectly honest. I felt like Kevin McAllister about to board a flight that wasn't mine to New York City. Do you know what I mean? So it was a bit exciting for me, essentially smuggling my son, which actually that's the thing. So then we got to get on the flight, and they were like, "We're sorry, whose boarding pass is this? We don't have anyone on file coming through here." They were getting a bit fresh, which I was like, "Hey, chill out, hey," which is what they want to hear when you've pretty much just fabricated a child out of thin air, as far as they're concerned. Hey, chill out, right? Hey, it's fine. I was like, no, it's fine. I just pushed him through in the pram. I was trying to be all chill about it, And as soon as Terry was like, I know someone should have said it, I was like, well, I have my wife's back, and so as if she's not on their side, then that's fine. Because the worst thing would be like, you didn't scan him in, and then I'm made out to be a moron. We've had multiple scraps like this in the airport. So then they brought me over to this other security guard, and he was all like, "Oh, so you as well?" And I'm like, somebody's not been doing their job, right? And there was another ma'am who was also a bit annoyed because she had kind of pushed her son through. And then this whole thing had happened, that people have been kind of sneaking in, right? And someone at security And then your man was all like, this is awful. No, listen, it's not your fault. Someone, and I think I know who it is, he says. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I think I know who it is. Wasn't doing their job right. And I was like, oh, yeah, I can imagine why I could have been pushing anyone through in a pram. And then Terry laughed, right? And he's like, no, it's not about terrorism. It's about smuggling kids. And I'm like, oh, God. And then I'm thinking, like, he knows the guy who wasn't watching when we were pushing all the kids through. He's going to fucking get it. And this was a big guy. He was like, oh, he's fucking smuggling kids. And he's going to be telling this guy, why weren't you watching? They could have been smuggling kids. Imagine someone telling you that. Imagine. And I was like, oh, I actually feel bad now. Because it is totally my fault. I just wanted a little Kevin McAllister thrill, right? And now he's going to get shit, you know? Imagine that people are like, you know, you work in a shop or whatever, and I don't know, the tills don't work out at the end of the day. Maybe there's, you know, £3 down. Someone's maybe stolen a Hello magazine or whatever, and you might get a kind of look. Maybe just be careful. You know, people can just be grabbing shit. Just make sure you check people as they're walking out. Any kind of sketchy characters. But for someone to be like, because you weren't working, there could have been kids smuggled out of the country. Oh my God, you'd quit your job. I'd quit my job. Or I'd, you know, say, look, my ADD. My ADD. Unfortunately, and I'd sue them. You know? If someone came at me that hard and I had something like ADD, I would be like, you've upset me so much now that I'm going to lean into this thing to make you feel bad, my disability. Is that okay with me joking about that? I don't know. I'm going to bow out of it, actually, because I don't know if that's all right. But anyway. But they're big on the safety. They're big on you know, the safety of kids. They were lovely though. Had Sonny, my young fella, on my lap, and he was there watching Moana. Then I had to hold the iPad. He could hold it beforehand, right? Well, it's an Amazon Kindle, and you look, it annoys me when I call it an iPad, but it's just so much easier, right? It's an Amazon Kindle 10-inch, Amazon Kindle HD 10-inch, right? About £100, got second hand, right? And I call it an iPad, and I say, where's the iPad? And I have to sometimes just check in with Terry. Like, you know, I know it's not an iPad. She's like, I don't give hey, look at me, a fuck what you call it, right? But I often, you know. But anyway, so I couldn't give him the iPad because he would have had little bits of glass in his fingers. Which, after watching Oz, the prison drama, that's how they killed Nino Schibetta. They fed him glass. They kept grinding up glass and giving it to him in the canteen, right? So I didn't want to visualize my son keeling over a shitty prison meal. I'd already visualized him flying through the air, landed on the desk of, I don't know, the other 007, the new one, the one who's all book smart, you know. So I didn't want to, you know. But get this, right? We paid a couple of, like at least over £100 for his seat. No more, probably about, I'll be told. Oh, well, not all be told, but probably over like £100, right? Say it's £100 for his seat. But then he had to sit on our lap anyway when we were taking off, when we were landing. So, like, essentially, because, you know, it's a 45-minute flight, or say 55 minutes, right? 20 minutes either side, right? Essentially, with 20 minutes either side, the fasten seatbelt sign being on, meaning he's sitting on our lap. It was probably 10 minutes in the middle there. Is this observational comedy any use to anyone? So it was probably 10 minutes in the middle. It was like £100 for sitting fucking 10 minutes on a flight. And then they come along and you remove it. Actually, they were very sound. They didn't have me remove my I still can feel the glass in my fingers, my shitty broken iPad. But we had to like sit him on our lap. There's all this stuff you have to do now. Like, we were literally talking about it. Like, I remember going into Dingle, my uncle's van, right? And there was just a sliding couch. We were all in the back on a couch. And actually, that wasn't the first time we were in the van. We were in the van another time, and we were all just like standing up, surfing, essentially. We called it surfing. We were just flying all over the place. There was no padding in there. You see it in Jackass now, even there's fucking padding when they're in the van. And then he put a couch in there, and the couch would just slide from one end up to the driver's end, and then it would slide back down to the fucking door and just slam into the door every time he took off really sharp from a stoplight. And that's how we went down to Dingle, right? Nowadays, there has to be some sort of height of chair for your kid up to the age of 12. 12. Can you believe that shit? There are lads who are not frigates sitting in a fucking car seat in their car dribbling over the fucking. There are lads. The cool lad who showed you Rage Against the Machine on a burnt CD, right? When you were like 11, he's got another year or 2 years sitting in a car seat. Are you kidding me? I mean, it's obviously more safe, you know, but it's also a shakedown, you know. I told you I went into Halfords trying to get a car seat just when my son was born, and I was like, okay, I don't know what to get, and it has totally overwhelmed me with so many options. All right, this is fine up to 6 months, this is fine to like 18 months, this is fine, but you're gonna have to move him over to that. Do you want him to move? Do you want? And I was like, all right, what about this one? And the guy was like, proper Limmy sketch stuff. He was like, well, look, that wouldn't be a great one if you're looking to protect the baby's head. And I'm like, what? What? So like, some of them don't protect the baby's head. Like, not to say that this, you know, it's not like you end up paying some ridiculous thing. Like, even the most expensive one, it isn't like a tank. You're not putting them in like Mork's egg for intergalactic travel that's, I'm assuming, you know, impermeable because he flew to Earth in an egg. You know, it must have some pretty good armor for. And you get on these references, Mork. Remember Mork? Robin Williams. Anyway, look, point I'm getting at is 12-year-olds, lads come back from the fucking Gaeltacht kissing 100 Colony Jas, sitting there in a car seat. I don't know. I know it doesn't sit well with me. But what else is going on? Try to watch a bit of golf. I love Shy talking over the golf. I'm not mad on golf, but you know, it's very simple to follow. You know, very, very, very simple to follow. You know, and I'm fascinated. I love seeing people crumble. Right, I love seeing people crumble because I know it. Right, I know it. I know that feeling. I could be, if me and Terry are having like a throw bits of paper in the bin competition. We have a trophy that we exchange. Whoever's won the last thing, right? They have the trophy, and then I have the trophy. We don't actually have the trophy made yet. I'll get it for her birthday, but we have like a kind of imaginary, figurative trophy, right? I currently have it for, I think, Bools, right? So if we're like playing a game of Bools, or we're playing a game of just like throwing a bit of paper in the bin, and we're like, "This is for the trophy," right? It could be, you know, first to 5, right? And if I'm up to 4 and she's on none, right? That's the worst thing. That's the worst situation that I can be in, right? Because then I get totally in my head, and all of a sudden I'm fucking flicking them out the house. They're going so fucking far, they're landing back on M's desk. Please stop flicking paper 007, right? So I crumble under the pressure of single sports, right? So I'm fascinated with golf, watching them crumble, because I've played the games, right? I played the video games. I played Actua Golf. That was the one we used to play with my dad. When he got a PlayStation, and I remember like the Actua Golf had like announcers. I don't even know who they are, right? But I remember it'd always be, because I'd be whacking the ball, and it'd always be like too far, much too far. That's what I'd always say. Be whacking at it, right? And every time the game was over, right, it would say exiting game. And me and my brother would be playing these games and be like fucking 20 over par, right? Shocking. We're just trying to whack. We're just trying to like see how high we can get at some point. You know, you throw the toys out of the pram, and you're like we're dead. Let's watch the world burn, right? And then it would say exiting game, and we thought I was saying exciting game, and we were like, look, Dad, every time we play a game with each other, it says exciting game. And my dad's very good at just knowing a time to call us like fucking idiot, like we're kids, you know. But he always knew the best time to be like, he says, that says exiting game, you fucking morons, like laughing, you know. And we all laughed. I'm like, all right, yeah. He's like, how do you not know how to spell exiting, you fucking morons? He always knows the times when it's not bad, you know. It's not too far, you know. So look, I've been around. I play the games. I even have PGA 2K21, so I think that's what it's called. McIlroy's on it. McIlroy's body. What a fucking specimen. He's got like Brezzy's bod. Fair fucks to him. You know, fair fucks to him. You know, everyone's like, oh, McIlroy came second. Have you seen his body, though? We were all objectifying him. Me and my wife were, you know, and so was my brother-in-law, to be fair. and yeah, a little bit less. And then I took it a bit too far. I was all like, he was taking off his glove, and I was like, "Give me that fucking glove and drape it over my eyes," I said. And he was, it was a bit too much. And I was a bit too, even Terry was like, "What?" Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, they're a big sporting family, right? My wife's family. And that's how they kind of like they talk about sport, and they know a lot about every sport. And when I met my mother-in-law for the first time, she was asking me all like, "All right, so what sports do you play?" I'm like, I don't really play any sports. Not really. Did a bit of rugby. And then she was like, "Oh, rugby, you play?" I'm like, no. And I had to bow out because I could tell she was getting really into the conversation. I was like, no. Like, I just, I tried rugby. I tried to play for Clontarf before, broke a kid's leg. Well, actually, I didn't tell her that. I told her that later on after a couple of glasses of wine. But I was like, no, I tried for Clontarf and I didn't stick. I was like, all right, Gaelic or anything? No, Gaelic. That's your football kind of soccer kind of thing. Like, no, don't really play on. But I felt like it had been like 4 or like 5 sports that I'd said no. And I'm like, I'm coming across like a negative Nancy here, even though I have said, to be fair, I don't play any sport, I'm a amateur call center comedian, right? And she goes, "All right, golf. Do you play golf?" And I said, yes, I do. I do play a bit of golf. And Terry was looking at me like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And I'm like, whatever. Like, this is fine. I can't see this biting me in the arse. And then as soon as we got to the gaff, she runs in and she fetches this trophy that she won for getting a hole in one on her golf course. And I was like, all right, look, I don't play golf. Like, she showed me the trophy and I was like, I don't play golf, which is not the reaction she was expecting. She was probably like, oh well, she was probably expecting, oh well, we should play sometime. But I could just see it can just get away. A lie can just get away from me like that, I just said, oh, I like golf. She shows me the hole in one trophy. I'm like, oh, we should play sometime. And before you know it, we're teeing up on the fairway, on the driving range, whatever we're doing. And I'm like fucking taking lumps out of the ground. Like I'm some fucking landscaper armed with a single driver, But yeah, I'm actually hoping to go back over to London, and you Londoners, mate, over there. I'm hoping to do a gig in maybe June, the end of May, June, which would be fun. And so I'm just trying to look at a few options of venues, but expect something in the next 2 weeks. I'm hoping to get a date booked in. I have a few other dates for you, by the way. I am performing in the Spirit Store in Dundalk on the 22nd of April. I'm very much looking forward to that. I do like Dundalk. I like the Dundalk people, right? And as well then in Kilkenny on the 24th of April, in Greystones in the Whale Theatre on the 28th of April, on the 1st of May in the Everyman, I'm Everyman, in Cork on the 1st, and then again in Vicar Street on the 7th, the 7th of May. The 7th of May. So do come and please come. Please come. It'll be loads of fun. And then, of course, the Bureau de Change Song Contest that is going to be kicking off on the 8th of May, the next night in the Sugar Club. So busy couple of weeks. But of course, on the pod in the month of May, it's going to be Mainstream May. I am bringing you the most clickbaity, basic mainstream topics in my pursuit of getting to the top of the podcasting charts for the month of May. So watch this space. But anyway, I love you. You have so much fun. You have so much fun when you go up there and dance. There's a little reminder to go to bed. All the best. Bye-bye. It's only a shit show.